again. This probably will be my last video today because I think it's my third video. Well, it's my third video within, um, I had one 14 hours ago with Israel and Iran, the war, and then I had the Christian Bible's Human Fingerprints. So I probably can't create another video for a while, today at least, and that's fine. But I wanted to go over some things that are very complex and Bible psychology and the need to argue. Um, I think that a lot of people utilize the Bible to fulfill a psychological need and desire to argue. Um, the Bible serves less as a spiritual guide for people and more as a tool for intellectual sparring, ego gratification, and the exertion of power over other people. You got to look at the psychology of individuals who enjoy arguing and then analyze how the Bible's structure and interpretation feed this behavior. And look at some of the implications for both the individuals and the broader Christian community. And maybe some remedies on how to curb the tendency to argue. I think individuals who derive satisfaction from arguing, they often exhibit very distinct psychological traits. And these people are typically characterized by a strong need for control. They like to control. They won't let you have an opinion. I've noticed this a lot. Well, no, I'm not going to let you go unless you agree with me. Well, no, I'm not going to agree with you just because you want me to agree with you. Oh, you're wrong. Well, great. That's so nice that you say I'm wrong because I really don't care. I couldn't care less, right? Just because you tell me I'm wrong doesn't matter jack squat. But a lot of people just want to have the desire to control. They have a competitive nature and they have a heightened sense of self-importance. They're very kind of like maybe their parents really babied them and they got everything they wanted. They got that new pony for Christmas that they always wanted, and their parents got them everything. Basically, very self-entitled little brats. Um, I think they would fall into categories like those with narcissistic tendencies, where the desire for validation and dominance drives their behavior. Or you can have people with a very argumentative personality and they're linked to they're very highly assertive and they have low agreeability. They a lot of these people they thrive on the adrenaline rush to argue, debating, right? They kind of look at each argument as a battlefield, basically, where their intellect and wit can shine, and everybody will see how smart they are, and everybody will see how important they are. And maybe they don't have really anything going in life, and maybe they're falling in a lot of and failing in a lot of respects. But hey, I'm going to go on YouTube or I'm going to go on Clubhouse, and everybody's going to see how much of a winner I am. I think it comes from insecurity and winning an argument bolsters and boosts their fragile self-esteem, self-worth, from a genuine belief in their intellectual superiority, and it feeds an ego that craves this recognition. And these individuals often seek out conflict, not for resolution, but for the process itself, for conflict. That's what they come for. So, do you really think that you're going to have an honest conversation with most of these people? No, you're not. The act of debating provides a dopamine hit, that crack rock, like the Trinity crack rock, and that reinforces the behavior much like a reward system. They might have a history of needing to assert themselves in social or family contexts. They turn arguments into a habitual way of coping. And so I think this is kind of a basic psychological profile. It's a person who's less interested in collaboration or mutual understanding and more focused on personal triumph, often at the expense of relationships or communal harmony. They don't really care. They don't want you to have peace. They don't want you to have peace or have unity. They want division. And so the Bible, with its vast array of texts, interpretations, and theological complexities, provides a very fertile ground for these people to argue. Its narrative includes debates like Jesus with the Pharisees and legalistic discussions like the Mosaic Law and prophetic challenges, which can be mined for ammunition in modern disputes. The text is very ambiguous, so it's open to multiple interpretation. This is perfect. This is a perfect breeding ground for arguments. And that's why the Bible is very argumentative. People use it to argue. Um, people cherry pick verses to support their stance, whether on morality, doctrine, or social issues. Passages like in Proverbs 26:4-5 will do not answer a fool according to his folly. Answer a fool according to his folly. That shows its duality here. It offers both a permission and an instruction to engage in verbal sparring. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, but you can answer him, basically. And the Bible's authority as the Word of God amplifies its utility as a power tool. When you have a lot of pride, this arguer is going to claim it's got divine backing behind it. God's on my side. God loves me more than he loves you, kind of thing. It elevates this person's position above mere human opinion, and it creates a psychological leverage point. It allows people to assert dominance, framing opponents not just wrong, but heretical or sinful. You heretic, you're a sinner. Enjoy your time in hell. Okay, the ego is fed by the belief that they are defending sacred truth and transforming a personal desire for control into a permission that's a holy mission, basically. And the structure of Christian history, marked by councils, schisms, and the disputes, the Council of Nicaea, the Reformation, it normalizes debate as a core component of faith, unintentionally encouraging this behavior. Just look through history. So for many people, the Bible becomes a weapon to gain power over others rather than a source of spiritual nourishment. A prideful person can wield scripture to silence dissent, leverage God's name to assert moral superiority. And this is evident in online platforms where Christians engage in heated debates. Debate me, debate me, debate me. They often cite passages like 2 Timothy 4:2, preach the word, correct, rebuke, and encourage, to justify their confrontational style. The psychological path and payoff is immense. They take each victory in a debate, and that reinforces their self-image as a guardian of truth, while each defeat is rationalized as persecution, and that further fuels their resolve. This dynamic transformation in the Bible from a spiritual text to a, this language, the arguer wanders from forums to social media, and they seek out the next kick, basically like a gambler's thrill, where each platform offers a new audience to conquer. The desire to argue is rooted in a need for validation and control. Okay, you have to have validation, you have to have control. You can't allow people to have a different opinion. No, you can't believe something differently. And if you do, you're a heretic, right? This finds constant fuel in the Bible's endless interpretation possibilities, perpetuating a cycle of ego gratification. Look at the evolution of Christianity. It was driven by debate. From early apostolic disputes like in Acts 15 on Gentile inclusion, to medieval scholarship like Thomas Aquinas, and modern denominational splits, schisms between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. And these debates have refined doctrine, but they're also setting a precedent for arguments, right? Arguments as a legitimate expression of faith. And so today, this legacy persists in endless online threads and church disagreements with no sign of abating. The constant contention over issues like creationism and gender roles or eschatology reflects both the richness of Christian thought and the psychological draw of conflict for many of its adherents. And this behavior poses major problems. For the individual, chronic arguing erodes empathy. Look at Sam Shamoun. Do you think he's empathetic? He's got way off of base now. He's lost it. And that's what happens when you have 20 years of debating. You have no empathy for other people because you're always trying to undermine them. You're trying to come against them. You're trying to destroy what they believe. And it basically takes your soul in many respects. It fosters a self-righteous persona that alienates others. And psychologically, it can deepen insecurities because their worth becomes tied to winning rather than being. Every time they win, they get a dopamine hit. Every time they lose, I'm being persecuted. Well, again, it's tied to this persona and this very fragile self-worth. And so for Christianity, it undermines the message of love and unity in John 13:35. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. And that shows that faith is divisive and judgmental. This public spectacle of debates on platforms, that's why I never really got much into debates, because it's kind of like about a me kind of thing. Like you have debates on X or YouTube. It really damages Christianity's credibility, and it reinforces the stereotypes of hypocrisy or intolerance or self-righteous behavior. And the root cause lies in human nature's competitive streak. And it's exacerbated by cultural emphasis on individualism, right? And having autonomous spaces and digital spaces that embolden conflict. Oh, we're kind of nobody knows who we are. We're anonymous. We can do whatever we want. We can say whatever we want. We can quote and nobody will know. Well, no, to stop this behavior, individuals must first recognize their motives. What's the motive behind it? Why are you trying to debate? Why are you coming on to debate? Why are you going from platform to platform to argue? You have to recognize your motives. Self-reflection guided by spiritual leaders or counselors can help people. And I think practically Christians can shift focus from debating to listening. Embrace humility, like in Philippians 2:3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Churches can encourage combative rhetoric, promoting dialogue that seeks understanding over victory. And personally, setting boundaries on argumentative engagements. Limiting online debates would be one to break the cycle. And spiritually, a return to the Bible's core message of grace and peace rather than its disputable points. That can redirect energy towards growth rather than domination. And so the Bible has a lot of complexities in it. And that's one of the reasons why we have so many debates today, because everybody's got their own little way of believing and thinking about stuff. And everybody's got the truth. Just ask them. No matter who you talk to, just ask them. I have the truth, and everybody else is damned for hell, basically. I don't eat pork. I don't eat pork, and let me tell you why. You don't want to know why I don't eat pork? Well, I really want to tell you because I want to puff myself up. Or, they really love to elevate themselves because I'm a Christian. Look at me. You're not. You're not a Christian. You don't do this, you don't do that. And they get together on these panels and they talk and they just love to talk and just blah, blah, blah. Kind of like Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. That's all I hear, really. It's the same thing. It's like wasted hours. We got a lot of man hours going over nothing. Okay. How many souls have they saved? None. Okay. How many people have they gotten through, to connect with? And how many man hours? You take 5 or 6 people and you do a 7 or 8 hour live stream. That's a lot of man hours, man. 7 times 8 is 56, right? That's a lot of man hours. Imagine that time being spent in helping the community or volunteering to paint a widow's house, or an old lady, helping an old lady across the street, or maybe make her some cookies or something. But no, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about John, or we're going to talk about this or whatever. People are free to do whatever they want, but I really have taken a good look at Christianity, and I don't like what I see, especially in the YouTube area. That's why I say church is kind of a fundamental thing that biblical Unitarians avoid, because a lot of them just want to argue. A lot of them want to argue. And the Trinity crack rock is something that they cling on to because it feeds this psychological persona they have. That's why it's so hard to give up, because it's like a drug. And a lot of this is embedded in a person's psychology. So they can't give it up. It's kind of like getting off of crack. They have to have people hold them accountable. Limit online debating. Have people to hold you accountable. This is an addiction. It's an addiction. Okay, if you get online and you're talking 8 hours a day or 7 hours a day about the Bible, and you're not really benefiting anybody other than yourself, then it's a problem. It's an addiction. Okay, you're not trying to figure out, well, let's go out and volunteer, or let's go do this, or what do you think about this? It's basically just talking. It's passing time. And that is a problem, because Christianity means nothing at that point. God's not going to look favorable upon these people that have wasted so much of their lives and man hours just gratifying their ego and self-interests. But a lot of them just say, well, I'm talking about God. I'm talking about God. What better way to spend today than talk about God? No, you're talking about God because you want to pass time and you want to feed ego. It has nothing to do with enriching the kingdom. It has nothing to do with bringing people to Christ or whatever. It's just getting together with buddies and talking about the same thing over and over again. That's a psychological problem that people have. You have to have accountability, and you have to have a collective shift in Christian practice, steering away from ego-driven arguments towards a faith rooted in love and unity. And the debates may never cease, but their purpose and impact can be transformed. Right? You can transform this. And that's why I see in the Bible psychology, there's a huge need to argue. And I was part of it myself. So, I'm not casting stones. I'm just saying that it needs to stop. And people that are aware of it need to stop, because it really is not a good look, but it also hinders growth, right? So that's why I didn't really need, I guess part of it psychologically was kind of exciting. You create videos and you do things and you get a little bit, arguments can create dopamine hits. You win an argument, you kind of feel good or whatever, as long as it's done peacefully. People like competition. Okay. It's like a competition. That's why when you watch a lot of these videos and you go to watch these debates, people are cheering on the team that they like the most. Oh, so and so is debating so and so. Well, I got to go on and cheer them on because they're in my camp, right? They're in my camp, and I want them to win the debate. Well, again, this is self-interest. This is a psychological issue that people have. And there's a lot of Christians that don't feed into it. There's a lot of Christians that don't care about the debates. They don't even pop on. You ever see too many people, I'm sure people at church that don't get in the middle of squabbles or quarrels. They tune out. They don't like to be around that kind of stuff, because it's a psychological thing. Maybe they're battling it. Maybe they kind of secretly want to, but they know that it's not good, so they push away. And then you've got other people who really don't care. Well, I don't care. I know it's not really beneficial and it's not fruitful, but it's so fun. It's so fun tuning into these debates. And then you see some of the comments in them, and then you really wonder what's going on. Some of these Christians are just nasty, getting banned, getting blocked, getting timed out. Even the mods on a lot of these channels are despicable. They block you all. I don't believe the Trinity is true or whatever. Block. That's a problem in itself when you don't even allow opposition or freedom of thought. So yeah, there's a lot of psychology wrapped up into the Bible and the need to argue. And the Bible is a petri dish for this. The Bible is a perfect place for arguments to develop and remain. Everybody believes that God's on their side. So what a better way to have an argument when you believe it's divine. That's a top level. That's the top tier. I'm going to have an argument and I'm going to be defending God and God's on my side. I mean, how much higher can you get on a level psychologically when you feel that you're arguing on behalf of God, you're defending God, God's got your back? It's just nonsense. So the Bible, a lot of people just love it because when you read a book that has a lot of mystery in it, that has a lot of different ways to interpret things, you get a little high because it's kind of like an adventure. Okay, you don't know what you're going to find. You're going to see something, go, oh, maybe that day, maybe you've had a little bit too much chocolate or whatever, or maybe you haven't gotten enough sleep, and you're going to start thinking you see things differently than you thought you saw them before. Oh my gosh, I've been given a spiritual revelation. No, you just are seeing things differently because people change. You might have seen things differently when you were younger. Now you get older, you have a different frame of mind and different psychological makeup. You're going to see things differently. People that listen to music when they were younger, a lot of the music, they would cringe today listening to it now, probably, right? So there is a lot of psychological draw to the Bible, and people need to be aware of that. I was drawn into it, not excessively, but man, I was creating a lot of anti-Trinity videos, which in hindsight, looking back, I'm like, man, that was kind of weird. It's like, but the biblical Unitarian faith creates a lot of this because we don't have the community. We don't have a lot of these things. So you're going to have a lot of psychologically driven people that are going to try to drive their ego and feed it. And especially those who want to debate, especially those who utilize Christianity as a way to satisfy their ego, to get that dopamine hit, to kind of use it as a way to feel worthy or whatever. And these are the people who like to debate. They love to have the attention. See, you don't need to have all that attention. It's actually, you're supposed to be very humble and show humility. And given all of this attention, especially like a lot of these Trinitarian channels, Trinitarians are the worst because they have created this belief system that's not biblical, but yet it creates the need to debate. If you're a Trinitarian, you're pretty much going to have the majority agree with you, which is going to be another ego strike, or an ego stroke rather. And then you're going to have debates that are going to be endless because lots of people are going to challenge the Trinity more and more. And you can call them heretics because, history is on your side and the church nephews are on your side. And, you're going against people who deny the Trinity, but you're going to argue it. You're going to be able to have lots of arguments and daily ones. Look at Jay Dyer. Look at how he acts. Super obnoxious. Jay Dyer, Sam Shamoon, Anthony Rogers, Kelly Powers. These are people who love to argue, and that's rooted in psychology. Major narcissistic tendencies. And again, people who do not like to be wrong. People who insist that they're right, and they just have this personality. Go watch Anthony Rogers videos and how he acts, how smug he is. Watch Sam Shamoon, watch Kelly Powers. They're all smug. Even when Kelly Powers, it was pointed out in Genesis 18 and 19 that there were angels. Angels said, we are about to destroy the city, for the Lord has sent us. We're going to do it. Well, they couldn't have done it. It says right here, and then he kicks you off. He kicks you off in the middle of the live stream because you proved to him that he was wrong, but he's not going to own up to it. So especially the leaders in many instances, they have this need to argue because it's rooted in psychology. They have a psychological issue. And you're not going to get through to these people. So it's a waste of time to spend hours and hours arguing with them, okay? Because they're trying to confirm their own bias. That's one of the things that I've learned in Christianity. I've taken step back and I don't argue with people anymore. Like, I don't really care. They're going to argue with you. Guaranteed, they're going to have a difference of opinion. And some people just can't handle that. Some people just can't handle that. Oh my gosh, because they're fragile. Their personality is fragile. So when they're questioned, when they're questioned and somebody else doesn't agree with them, their ego and their id gets a little bit damaged. And they can't have that. They have to have perfect agreement with them. Okay. Kind of like the liberal mindset. You can have your own opinion unless you disagree with me. But that's exactly what's going on with Christianity today. A very ego-driven belief that uses scripture to argue, to debate, and then if you don't agree, then they're going to come at you and call you a heretic or whatever, or say you're going to hell. See, so you got to really be careful about a book that's got so many different ways to look at it, and you can't prove without a shadow of a doubt that your belief is true, because there's so many different beliefs. That's your opinion. That's great, but that's an opinion. That's all it is, right? And to try and demand that everybody else come under your umbrella and believe just as you do is more of a ego-driven, thing than it is anything else. It's more ego. You're trying to feed your ego, and like I said, Christianity today is a lot of ego, sadly. So anyway, got to go. Happy Saturday to everybody. Be safe out there. Again, pray for Israel, pray for Iran, pray for the United States, pray for everybody, and hopefully there's going to be peace in the Middle East. God bless.